An elephant stands over the body of a fallen herd member, gently touching the bones with her trunk. Across the ocean, a mother orca carries her dead calf for 17 days, refusing to let go. In a forest clearing, a chimpanzee sits quietly, eyes downcast after losing a lifelong friend. These moments force us to ask a question that challenges centuries of belief. Do animals truly feel emotions? Love, grief, joy, or are we simply projecting human feelings onto them? In this deep dive, we'll explore the groundbreaking science, unforgettable stories, and hidden emotional worlds of creatures great and small. What we discover may change the way you see every animal forever. If you believe animals deserve to have their stories told, help us bring their voices to the world. Subscribe to Animal Truths, where we uncover the hidden lives, intelligence, and emotions of the creatures we share our planet with. Hit the bell so you never miss a story that could change the way you see them forever. The African savanna stretches endlessly under a pale, golden sunrise. In the midst of this vast beauty, a heartbreaking scene unfolds. A mother elephant stands motionless over the still body of her calf. The calf's small frame lies lifeless on the dusty earth, its skin still carrying the warmth of life that has only just slipped away. The mother lowers her massive head, gently tracing the calf's face with her trunk, as though trying to memorize every detail, as though willing the air to return to his lungs. She nudges him softly again and again, but the silence does not break. Hours pass. She does not eat, does not drink, does not move away. Her herd lingers at a distance, as if understanding that something sacred is taking place. In this moment, it is hard to see her behavior as anything other than grief, a deep, personal sorrow for the loss of her child. Scientists have documented such scenes around the world. Elephants standing vigil, dolphins carrying their dead calves for days, geese calling out desperately for lost mates, dogs refusing to leave the side of their deceased owners. But here's the question that lies at the heart of our exploration. Are these truly emotions, grief, love, joy, experienced in ways similar to humans? Or are we simply anthropomorphizing, projecting our own emotional experiences onto creatures whose inner worlds we can never fully see? This journey will take us across continents and into the minds of elephants, whales, primates, birds, and even creatures you might never expect to feel. We will look at the science, the stories, and the ethical questions that arise when we admit that animals may not just survive, but truly feel. We humans like to think of ourselves as unique in the richness of our emotional lives. Joy at seeing a loved one after years apart, grief that can hollow us out when we lose someone dear, the warmth of love, the excitement of play. These are the currents that run through our days, shaping not only how we act, but who we are. For centuries, many scientists insisted that these experiences were exclusive to humans. Emotions, they argued, were a byproduct of our complex brains, our language, our culture. Animals, in this old view, were seen as instinct-driven machines, clever in some cases, but ultimately operating without the deep emotional undercurrents that we feel so keenly. But this narrative is changing. Decades of careful observation, combined with advancements in neuroscience, are revealing something profound. Many animals may share not just our behaviors, but the very building blocks of our emotional lives. From chimpanzees consoling each other after a fight, to orcas forming long-lasting family bonds, to birds singing joyfully in the presence of their mates, the evidence is mounting that emotions are not the sole property of humankind. What we are learning challenges the boundaries we've drawn between us and them. If a gorilla can feel the sting of loss, or a crow can experience the thrill of play, then perhaps emotions are not an evolutionary luxury, but a survival tool, a force that binds communities, nurtures the young, and guides decision-making. Over the course of this documentary, we will journey into these moments, the playful, the heartbreaking, the tender, and examine how science is beginning to decode the language of emotion in the animal kingdom. And we will ask ourselves, if animals do feel as we do, what responsibilities does that place upon us? To understand animal emotions, we first need to strip away centuries of human bias and look at the brain itself. In the early 20th century, the dominant belief in science was that emotions were purely human. Animals might behave in ways that looked emotional, but these were thought to be mere reflexes or hardwired instincts. Charles Darwin himself had argued, back in the 1800s, that emotions evolved long before humans existed, serving as survival tools for countless species. But for decades, his ideas were overshadowed by a more mechanical view of animal behavior. Now, neuroscience is revealing that many animals share the same biological machinery that underpins our own feelings. Deep within the brain lies the limbic system, a network of structures, including the amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus, responsible for processing and generating emotions. In mammals, this system is strikingly similar to our own. The chemicals that flood our brains when we feel love, fear, or joy, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, are also found in dogs, elephants, dolphins, and even birds. In fact, functional MRI scans have shown that when a dog sees its beloved human, the same reward centers in its brain light up as when we see a close friend or family member. Elephants grieving a lost member display elevated stress hormones, much like we do during bereavement. Prairie voles, one of the few monogamous mammals, experience oxytocin-driven pair bonding that mirrors the human experience of romantic attachment. Science is making it harder to dismiss these parallels as coincidence. When biology, behavior, and brain activity all align, the simplest explanation is often the most direct. Animals don't just act emotional. They are emotional. The question is no longer do they feel, but how deep does it go? And the deeper we look, the more we find ourselves staring into a mirror we never expected to see. If there is one emotion that crosses nearly every species line, it's the bond between parent and offspring. In humans, we call it love, a word heavy with meaning. But in nature, it's a force so powerful that it can drive extraordinary acts of sacrifice and care. From the moment a baby is born, mammal mothers release floods of oxytocin, the so-called love hormone. This same surge happens in elephants, dolphins, and even sheep, forging a connection so deep that separation can trigger stress, grief, and frantic searching. In the wild, we've seen mothers go to unimaginable lengths to protect their young. A mother elephant will stand guard over her calf for days without food or water if she senses danger nearby. Orca mothers have been documented carrying the body of a dead calf for weeks, unable or unwilling to let go. In primates, a mother chimpanzee will cradle her lifeless infant for days, gently grooming it as if hoping for it to wake. Some scientists once dismissed these behaviors as misdirected instincts, but now, with a better understanding of brain chemistry and behavior, many biologists see these actions as evidence of real emotional processing, perhaps even mourning. The depth of this bond isn't limited to mammals. In certain bird species like albatrosses, both parents invest years raising a single chick, each taking turns crossing oceans to bring food. If one parent is lost, the surviving partner often fails to breed again for years, showing signs of withdrawal that echo human heartbreak. The more we observe, the clearer it becomes. This connection between parent and child isn't just mechanical. It's emotional, it's enduring, and in many cases, it's the center of an animal's world. In the quiet moments, a mother gently nuzzling her calf, a father penguin cradling an egg against the Antarctic wind, we are reminded that love, in its purest form, may be far more universal than we ever dared to believe. When we think of love in the animal kingdom, our minds often drift to the bond between parent and child. But what about romantic love, or at least something remarkably close to it? While it's tempting to dismiss courtship in animals as simple reproduction, science is beginning to uncover a deeper, more enduring reality. Lifelong partnerships, mutual devotion, and acts of care that seem to go beyond instinct. Take the albatross, a seabird whose relationships are legendary. These birds may spend months, even years apart, flying thousands of miles across open ocean. Yet when the breeding season comes, they return to the same partner, engaging in an elaborate dance unique to their pair. This isn't just mating ritual, it's a reaffirmation of connection, a physical language of loyalty. In wolves, bonded pairs often share leadership of the pack, relying on teamwork and trust to raise pups and defend territory. Their loyalty is so strong that if one mate dies, the other may never take another partner. Gibbons, small apes swinging through the treetops of Southeast Asia, sing haunting duets to one another at dawn. Complex vocal patterns that seem less about warning rivals and more about reinforcing a shared emotional world. Even in the depths of the sea, devotion blooms. Seahorses engage in daily greeting dances, curling their tails together, swaying in rhythm, as if reminding each other, I'm still here, and I still choose you. In prairie voles, a rare example of monogamous rodents, partners share nests, groom each other, and experience measurable distress when separated, their stress hormones mirroring human heartbreak. Skeptics argue that we're anthropomorphizing, projecting our human emotions onto animals. But can we ignore the neurological overlap? Many of these species share the same brain chemicals humans use to form attachment bonds, such as oxytocin and vasopressin. The expressions may differ, but the chemistry of connection is remarkably similar. Love and attachment in animals often reveal themselves most powerfully when they're tested by loss. Grief, that deep, aching void left by the absence of someone dear, was once considered an exclusively human emotion. Yet, around the world, countless observations suggest otherwise. Animals mourn, not just for a moment, but in ways that eerily echo our own rituals of farewell. Among elephants, grief is legendary. When a herd encounters the bones of a deceased elephant, they pause. Adults gently touch the skulls and tusks with their trunks, as though tracing the memory of the individual. If grief shows us the depth of animal bonds, joy reveals their vibrancy. Joy is more than just a fleeting sensation. It's a complex emotion tied to social bonding, learning, and even survival. And contrary to what some once believed, it's not uniquely human. Across the animal kingdom, moments of unrestrained happiness emerge in ways we can measure, observe, and even, in some cases, hear. Take dolphins. In the wild, they surf waves just for the thrill of it, leaping high into the air, twisting mid-flight before splashing down in bursts of white foam. There's no hunting advantage here, no survival necessity, just the pure exhilaration of movement. In controlled studies, dolphins have been recorded producing signature play whistles when engaging in games with their pod, distinct from their calls for food or alert signals. Rats, yes, even rats, laugh when tickled. Researchers at the University of Bowling Green discovered that these ultrasonic chirps, too high-pitched for human ears without special equipment, are signs of joy. Rats even seek out play sessions with humans who tickle them, bouncing and darting in anticipation. This play-driven laughter, scientists believe, may be an ancient evolutionary thread connecting joy across species. Primates like chimpanzees and bonobos play chase, tumble in mock wrestling matches, and exhibit what researchers call play faces, wide open mouths resembling human laughter expressions. The social value is enormous. Play teaches trust, communication, and non-aggression, forging bonds that last a lifetime. Even birds join the celebration. Ravens have been observed sliding down snowy rooftops repeatedly, as if on a playground slide, while parrots dance rhythmically to music in perfect time, a rare trait they share with humans. When animals experience joy, their bodies react much like ours. Dopamine floods the brain, heart rates increase, and behaviors repeat purely for pleasure's sake. Joy is a biological reward for connection. If joy connects us through shared celebration, empathy connects us through shared feeling, the ability to sense and respond to the emotions of others. For centuries, humans assumed empathy was an exclusively human trait, born of our complex language and morality. But modern science is revealing a truth that feels far older. Empathy is woven deeply into the social fabric of many species. Elephants are perhaps the most famous example. In the wild, when a member of the herd is injured or dying, the others will gather close, gently touching the body with their trunks, often staying for hours or even days. This isn't mere curiosity. Researchers have documented elephants attempting to lift fallen companions to their feet, bringing them food, and standing guard to protect them from predators. In the rainforests of Africa, chimpanzees have been seen consoling distressed companions after fights. They'll approach slowly, offering soft vocalizations, a hand on the back, or even a long, calming embrace. It's not dominance or submission. It's comfort, an act requiring the recognition of another's emotional state. Rats, in carefully designed lab experiments, have been known to free trap companions even when food is available as an alternative reward, choosing compassion over personal gain. This suggests empathy may not be a luxury of intelligence, but a survival advantage in tightly knit social groups. Dogs, our longtime companions, read human emotional cues with uncanny precision. A person crying often prompts a dog to approach, lick, or lean into them, offering warmth and presence. This isn't just trained behavior. It's an instinct forged through tens of thousands of years of partnership. Even birds can show empathy. In mated pairs of cockatoos, one will often offer food to the other if it's unable to reach it. Ravens, too, have been recorded consoling distressed flock mates after conflicts. Empathy bridges species lines. Compassion is a core part to live together. If empathy can exist within a species, can it cross the boundaries between them? The answer, witnessed time and again in the natural world, is a resounding yes. Across jungles, farms, oceans, and even human homes, animals often form emotional bonds with members of entirely different species, relationships that defy evolutionary logic and speak to a shared language of feeling. One of the most famous examples comes from Kenya's Samburu Reserve, where a young orphaned elephant named Themba befriended a sheep named Albert. At first, Albert was wary of the giant newcomer, keeping his distance. But over time, the two began to walk side by side, nap together, and even eat from the same feeding trough. Caretakers noted that Themba's stress behaviors reduced dramatically after Albert entered his life, suggesting comfort and companionship that transcended their differences. In the Arctic, scientists have observed a polar bear approaching a team of sled dogs, not as prey, but as playmates. The bear and one dog engaged in gentle sparring, rolling in the snow, sharing nuzzles. The bear returned to the same spot for days, not hunting, but simply to play. In Florida, a dolphin named Jojo became a local celebrity for befriending humans, often accompanying divers for hours, nudging them toward interesting fish or playfully stealing their gear and returning it. While human-dolphin bonds are well known, Jojo also formed a surprising friendship with a sea turtle, swimming alongside it and circling it protectively from sharks. Even predators sometimes form deep bonds with their would-be prey in captivity. In one Japanese zoo, a lioness adopted a baby antelope after it was placed in her enclosure by mistake. Instead of attacking, she licked it, guarded it from other lions, and even allowed it to rest between her paws. Scientists suggest that emotion, like life itself, can cross boundaries we once thought were impassable, forming bridges where we expected only instinct and survival. Grief is often thought of as a deeply human response, a reflection of love lost and bonds broken. But across the animal kingdom, signs of mourning have been documented not only for members of their own species, but for companions from entirely different worlds. In 2018, on the shores of Greece, a stray dog named Hachiko, nicknamed after the famous Japanese dog, was seen lying beside the body of a dolphin that had washed ashore. Witnesses describe how the dog nudged the dolphin's side, whimpered softly, and then lay down next to it, refusing to leave for hours. No one could explain the connection. Perhaps the dog had played near the coast with this dolphin before, or perhaps it was simply responding to the stillness of a life ended. On a South African farm, a goose and a sheep had formed an inseparable bond. When the sheep passed away, the goose stayed by the body for 2 days, honking mournfully and driving away other animals. Farmers reported that the goose stopped eating for nearly a week, mirroring behavior seen in grieving humans. Even the ocean holds these stories. Divers in New Zealand recorded a wild bottlenose dolphin circling a dead penguin, nudging it toward the surface repeatedly, as though urging it to breathe again. The dolphin remained for over an hour, despite no obvious benefit or biological reason to do so. These acts can't be explained away as mere curiosity. They carry the same hallmarks we recognize in ourselves: lingering presence, changes in behavior, and a refusal to let go. Whether these gestures are born from instinct, empathy, or something even more profound, they suggest that the experience of loss is not an exclusively human burden. In grief, as in love, animals may be far more like us than we dare to admit. If grief reveals the depth of an animal's emotional world, then reunion shows us its brightest colors. Across species, moments of coming together after separation are often marked by exuberance, physical closeness, and unmistakable joy. In the African savanna, a herd of elephants greets a returning family member with trumpeting calls, intertwining trunks, and a circle of bodies pressing together in what scientists call a celebratory huddle. Researchers have documented these reunions even after absences lasting years, clear evidence that elephants not only remember but cherish familiar faces. On a farm in Oregon, a rescued cow named Daisy was separated from her best friend, another cow named June, for several weeks due to medical treatment. The day they were reunited, Daisy ran across the pasture, something cows rarely do in adulthood, bellowing until she reached June. They touched noses and remained side by side for the rest of the day, grooming each other in the warm sunlight. In the wild, bottlenose dolphins have been seen leaping repeatedly and slapping the water's surface when a pod member returns after days apart. Some scientists believe this display is more than communication. It is pure celebration. And perhaps the most famous example comes from dogs. Whether you've been gone for hours or months, a dog's uncontainable excitement, wagging tails, happy whines, full body wiggles, speaks to an emotional bond that transcends time. These moments of reunion are not just practical acknowledgments of a group member's return. They are spontaneous bursts of emotion, joy, relief, and perhaps even gratitude, reminding us that connection, for many animals, is not a convenience but a lifeline. If joy had a universal language, play might be its most fluent form. Across species, play emerges not for survival's sake, but seemingly for the sheer delight of movement, interaction, and creativity. In the icy waters of the Arctic, polar bear cubs wrestle and chase each other across the snow, rolling down drifts as if they've invented their own winter sport. These games help them practice skills for adulthood, but scientists believe the energy and laughter-like huffs they make reveal genuine enjoyment. Ravens, some of the most intelligent birds on Earth, have been observed sliding repeatedly down snowy rooftops, using scraps of bark like sleds. This behavior has no apparent survival benefit. It is simply fun. Observers have seen them fly back up to repeat the glide over and over again, much like a child on a playground slide. In the African savanna, young giraffes engage in gentle necking matches where they swing their long necks in mock battles, pausing often to prance away in exaggerated, bouncy strides. And underwater, sea otters hold hands in rafts before diving into playful spins, sometimes juggling pebbles as though performing for an unseen audience. Playfulness is also central to human-animal bonds. Dogs initiate play with their signature play bow, while cats stalk and pounce not only on prey but on toys, toes, and even shadows. This mix of physical activity and shared amusement fosters social bonds, trust, and emotional well-being. While many scientists once dismissed animal play as mere preparation for adult skills, the sheer joy evident in these acts challenges that view. Sometimes it seems animals play because life offers moments worth savoring, and joy needs no further justification. When an animal is in pain, physically or emotionally, it's not always left to suffer alone. Across species, there are remarkable moments when others step in, not for survival, not for food, but seemingly to offer comfort. In the wild plains of Kenya, a young elephant collapses from exhaustion. Immediately, members of the herd gather around her. They rumble low, caress her with their trunks, and stand guard until she rises again. It's a scene of solidarity and care that rivals any human act of compassion. Chimpanzees, often portrayed as fierce competitors, have been observed embracing and gently grooming each other after a fight. These reconciliatory gestures calm tempers and restore harmony to the group. Gorillas do the same, often wrapping their long arms around a distressed troop member in an unmistakable hug. Even some bird species display empathy-like behaviors. When a mate or chick is injured, mated albatross pairs will preen each other more frequently, pressing their beaks together in what can only be described as a quiet reassurance. Dolphins, too, are known to support sick or injured companions, swimming alongside them for hours, even days, ensuring they can surface for air. And then there are the animals in our own homes. A dog who rests their head on your lap when you're sad. A cat who curls against you when you're ill. These may not be acts of survival, but they are powerful reminders that in the animal kingdom, comfort is a language spoken fluently without words. In the wild, joy and sorrow can exist side by side, just as they do in our own lives. One moment, a young elephant calf chases birds in playful glee. The next, that same herd may gather in solemn silence around a fallen elder. Playfulness reminds us of the spark of life. Grief reminds us of the depth of connection. Grief in animals is not a mere absence of activity. It is a deliberate, often ritualized behavior. Elephants have been seen gently touching the bones of deceased relatives, lingering for hours or even days. Orcas carry their dead calves for miles, unwilling to let go. In chimpanzee groups, the loss of a longtime companion can cause visible withdrawal, less eating, less interaction, and long moments of staring at the spot where the friend once rested. Scientists caution us not to project human emotions too quickly, yet these scenes are hard to dismiss as anything but mourning. When a magpie places twigs and bits of grass beside a dead flockmate, or when a dog lies quietly beside its deceased owner, refusing to leave, we see actions that transcend survival. They speak of memory, of loss, and perhaps of love itself. From the joy of play to the pain of loss, animals reveal an emotional spectrum that mirrors our own. In these moments, we are reminded that they are not simply living in our world. They're feeling it deeply alongside us. Few sights are as moving as an elephant mourning its dead. These giants, with their extraordinary memory and deep social bonds, treat death with a kind of reverence that feels almost ceremonial. When a herd encounters the remains of a fallen member, even years after the death, they approach slowly, often in complete silence. Their trunks reach out with deliberate care, tracing the contours of sun-bleached bones. Some linger, touching the tusks as if recognizing them. Others stand still, swaying gently, eyes fixed on the remains. Elephant matriarchs, the keepers of herd wisdom, are often the first to approach. They may stand guard over the body for hours, even delaying migration. In some cases, elephants have been seen covering a corpse with leaves and branches, as though attempting a burial. Mothers who lose calves sometimes remain by their young for days, touching them with their trunks, refusing to eat, and making low, rumbling calls, sounds that researchers believe may express distress. This isn't fleeting behavior. It's a ritual of remembrance. Elephants recognize death not as a moment, but as a rupture in their social fabric. Their reactions speak to a shared sense of loss that transcends species, a reminder that the ache of grief is not uniquely human, but woven into the emotional lives of creatures far older than us. In the summer of 2018, the world watched as a mother's grief unfolded across the open waters of the Pacific Northwest. An orca known as Tahlequah, or J35, gave birth to a calf that died just 30 minutes later. But instead of letting her baby sink into the depths, Tahlequah began what scientists now call a tour of grief. For 17 days, she carried her calf's lifeless body balanced on her forehead or pushed gently through the water, traveling over 1,000 miles. Observers saw her slowing to adjust the calf, nudging it when it slipped away, as though refusing to accept the finality of death. Other orcas in her pod swam close, occasionally helping her lift the small body. There was no practical reason for this act. It was not about protection or survival. It was, by all appearances, about mourning. Orcas live in tightly knit matrilineal societies where family bonds endure for life. Calves are cherished, and the death of one reverberates through the entire pod. Tahlequah's vigil forced us to confront a haunting question. Was she not just instinctively reacting, but consciously grieving? Scientists suggest that such prolonged, deliberate behavior is evidence of emotional complexity, perhaps even an understanding of loss that is painfully similar to ours. When she finally let her calf go, it wasn't because her love had faded, but because the living, including herself, had to continue on. In Tahlequah's journey, we saw a truth as old as the seas she swam. Grief, in its purest form, is the price of deep connection. After the somber stillness of grief, joy can feel like sunlight breaking through clouds. And in the animal kingdom, few embody this as vividly as dolphins. From the moment they are born, dolphins seem drawn to play. They leap high into the air, twist mid-flight, and dive back into the water with splashes that look suspiciously like delight. They chase each other in playful races, pass seaweed back and forth like a ball, and even create bubble rings, perfect shimmering circles of air, only to swim through them like children on a playground. What's striking is that these games often have no survival benefit. They're not always about hunting practice or dominance displays. Instead, dolphins seem to invent games simply because they enjoy them. Scientists have documented dolphins approaching boats just to surf the waves in their wake, a pastime with no evolutionary purpose other than thrill-seeking. Playing dolphins also serves as a powerful social glue. It strengthens bonds within pods, fosters trust, and may even help teach cooperation. Young dolphins learn the rules of social life, not from lectures or instinct alone, but from shared laughter and motion, spinning, racing, and chasing in endless games. To witness a dolphin at play is to be reminded that joy isn't only a human luxury. It may be a universal need, a way for sentient beings to reaffirm that life is not just about survival, but about moments worth living for. In their leaps and spirals, dolphins write poetry on the surface of the sea, verses made of water, sunlight, and joy. If joy had a physical form, for elephants it might look like a splash of muddy water on a hot afternoon. These gentle giants, known for their deep emotional bonds and complex mourning rituals, also have a playful side that's as endearing as it is surprising. Elephants are masters of turning everyday resources into playgrounds. In the wild, calves chase each other through tall grass, rolling and trumpeting in mock battles. Adults, too, join the fun, not out of necessity, but seemingly out of sheer enjoyment. One of their favorite activities is bathing, and not just for hygiene. At a watering hole, you might see a matriarch kneeling to let the young clamber over her back, or a juvenile submerging itself completely before exploding upward with a spray of water. Mud baths are another joyous ritual. Elephants scoop up trunkfuls of wet earth and fling it across their backs, covering themselves in a protective, cooling layer. But it's more than skincare. Their trumpeting calls, head shaking, and gentle shoves to invite others to join in all suggest a social celebration. Researchers have noted that these play sessions strengthen the bonds between herd members. They act as a stress release, a way of reaffirming safety and togetherness in a sometimes dangerous world. In moments of play, hierarchy softens, young and old mingle freely, and life's daily hardships fade away. Watching a herd of elephants at play is to witness joy in its most authentic, unfiltered state, an emotion shared not in words, but in splashes, rumbles, and the kind of laughter only the heart can hear. When we think of intelligent animals, ravens are often on the list, but their emotional depth is just as fascinating as their cleverness. Among the most playful creatures in the avian world, ravens have been seen doing things that serve no survival purpose at all, unless you count happiness as a form of survival. In snowy landscapes, ravens have been observed sliding down rooftops or icy hills, only to fly back up and do it again, like feathered children on a winter playground. They play tug-of-war with sticks, pass objects back and forth mid-flight, and even drop small items for others to catch. Some researchers believe these playful exchanges help strengthen social bonds within the flock, fostering trust and cooperation. Ravens are also notorious pranksters. They've been caught pulling the tails of much larger animals, wolves, foxes, even dogs, just to provoke a reaction. This mischief doesn't always benefit them directly, but it reveals a willingness to engage with the world in a way that goes beyond mere instinct. And then there's their love of aerial acrobatics. A raven might suddenly fold its wings in mid-flight, spiraling toward the ground before pulling up at the last second, an act that seems more like showing off than survival. In the wild, such displays may function as social signals, impressing potential mates or strengthening alliances. This joy, expressed through risk-free daring in games, hints at something deeply familiar, that life isn't just about getting by. Sometimes it's about savoring the thrill of the moment, sharing laughter, whether you speak in words or in wing beats. One of the most remarkable aspects of animal emotions is how they can extend beyond their own kind. Dogs and humans are perhaps the most celebrated example of this cross-species bond. Thousands of years of coevolution have created a deep emotional understanding between us, so deep that dogs can read subtle changes in our facial expressions, and we, in turn, can sense their moods with uncanny accuracy. Play is often the purest form of this shared joy. A dog's tail-wagging sprint toward you, the sparkle in its eyes as you pick up a ball, or the mutual anticipation before a game of fetch. These are moments where two species meet in emotional language older than words. Science shows that when dogs and their human companions engage in such interactions, both release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, creating a feedback loop of happiness. But it's not just domesticated animals. In the wild, playful encounters sometimes occur between entirely different species. Dolphins swimming alongside whales, playing in each other's wakes. Orphaned elephants bonding with goats or dogs. Even wild foxes engaging in games with household pets. These interactions suggest that joy is not only an internal feeling, but also a social bridge, a way for creatures to reach across the boundaries of species, size, and even habitat. It's a reminder that emotions can be a universal language, one that unites rather than divides. In these shared moments, survival takes a back seat, and the simple delight of connection becomes the main purpose. When we think of comfort, we often picture it as a uniquely human act, an arm around a shoulder, a reassuring word. But animals, too, display acts of consolation, sometimes with tenderness that rivals our own. Chimpanzees have been observed embracing and softly grooming companions who have lost a fight or suffered a loss, their gestures calm and deliberate, as though to say, "I'm here for you." In the wild, elephants have been seen standing vigil over distressed herd members, wrapping their trunks around them and making low, resonant rumbles, sounds researchers believe are meant to soothe. Dogs often curl up beside their grieving owners, sensing sorrow through subtle cues like changes in breathing or scent. Even animals not bonded by species lines offer comfort. A cat lying quietly next to a crying child, a goat nudging an injured chicken to safety, or dolphins surrounding a sick podmate in protective formation. Biologists believe these acts aren't just instinct. They may be rooted in empathy, the ability to understand and respond to another's emotional state. Brain imaging in some species shows activation in regions associated with social bonding and care when they witness distress. These moments challenge the notion that comfort is an exclusively human behavior. They remind us that compassion is not limited to one species. It may be a shared inheritance in the story of life itself, a silent promise between beings that says, "You are not alone." When an animal dies, we often imagine that life simply moves on for the rest of its kind. But the natural world tells a different story, one of lingering presence, altered behavior, and ritual-like acts that mirror human mourning. Elephants are perhaps the most famous animal mourners. When a member of the herd dies, they gather around the body in silence. Trunks explore the fallen one's face and tusks, as if committing every detail to memory. They may return to the bones months or even years later, touching them gently before moving on. This quiet reverence has led scientists to describe it as an elephant funeral. In the oceans, orcas and dolphins have been observed carrying dead calves on their backs for days, sometimes weeks, as though unwilling to let go. On land, magpies have been seen bringing blades of grass and placing them around a deceased bird, pausing afterward as if in a moment of stillness. Even domestic animals show signs of grief. Dogs may wait at the door for an owner who will never return. Cats may search the home for a lost companion, meowing softly into empty rooms. Some researchers hesitate to label these behaviors as grief, arguing it may be instinct. But whether instinct or emotion, the effect is the same. These animals alter their behavior, often dramatically, in response to loss. And perhaps that's the essence of mourning, an acknowledgement, in whatever form, that a life once shared is now gone, and the world is different without it. Grief does not always stay within the boundaries of a single species. In fact, some of the most touching examples in the animal kingdom come from creatures mourning members of entirely different kinds. On a small farm in England, a sheep was seen lingering for days beside the spot where her companion, a border collie, had been buried. The two had grown inseparable over the years, grazing, resting, and even playing together. After the dog's death, the sheep refused to join the flock, choosing instead to stand vigil, calling out softly. In Kenya's Masai Mara, a group of elephants once surrounded the body of a dead rhinoceros, not one of their own species, while chasing away scavengers. Witnesses said the elephants touched the rhino's body with their trunks, then stood in complete silence for several minutes before slowly walking away. Even in our homes, stories abound. Cats curling up on the bed of a deceased dog. Parrots calling out the names of owners who have passed away. Horses lowering their heads and standing motionless beside a grieving human. These acts challenge the idea that mourning is purely an evolutionary behavior tied to preserving one's own genetic line. Instead, they hint at something deeper, an empathy that can bridge differences in appearance, language, and even biology. It's as though, in these moments, animals recognize a universal truth. The loss of a life is felt by all who valued it, no matter the species. If you've ever noticed a dog becoming anxious when you're stressed, or a horse relaxing when you exhale deeply, you've witnessed a phenomenon scientists call emotional contagion, the transfer of feelings from one individual to another without words. In the animal world, this can be life-saving. A startled bird takes flight, and the whole flock follows without knowing exactly why. A deer senses the tension in another's posture and bolts, carrying the herd to safety. This rapid mirroring of emotional states is a key survival strategy. But emotional contagion doesn't only apply to fear. Studies have shown that rats will become more optimistic after spending time with happy cage mates, choosing to explore risky but rewarding paths more often. Dogs can read the emotional tone of their owners' voices, adjusting their own behavior accordingly, seeking comfort when they hear sadness or becoming more energetic when they sense joy. In primates, grooming is more than hygiene. It's a calming ritual. When one monkey is distressed, others will often approach to groom or touch them, helping reduce cortisol levels in both parties. This suggests that the emotional states are not just noticed, but actually shared. Researchers believe emotional contagion may be the evolutionary foundation for empathy itself. By feeling what others feel, animals can anticipate needs, form stronger social bonds, and create cooperative groups. It blurs the line between instinct and compassion, hinting that what we see as a human capacity might actually be far older and far more universal than we imagine. Empathy, the ability to not only detect another's feelings but to respond in a way that provides comfort or help, is perhaps one of the clearest signs that emotions are deeply woven into animal life. And it's not confined to humans. In the African savanna, elephants have been observed pausing their migration to help a struggling calf to its feet, patiently supporting it until it can walk again. When a herd member dies, others often gather around the body, touching it with their trunks in what appears to be a silent vigil. Dolphins have been known to support sick or injured companions, swimming alongside them to keep them afloat for hours or even days. This cooperative care extends beyond their own species. There are accounts of dolphins guiding stranded whales back to deeper water or encircling humans to protect them from sharks. Closer to home, many dog owners can recall a time when their pets stayed by their side during illness, heartbreak, or grief, sometimes without being called. Cats, too, often respond to their humans' distress with quiet companionship, curling up nearby in a kind of silent solidarity. Scientific studies back these stories. In controlled experiments, rats will often choose to free a trapped cage mate rather than take a food reward, even when they themselves are hungry. Primates have been seen consoling unrelated troop members after conflicts, not for personal gain, but seemingly because they sense the other's distress. Empathy may have evolved because it strengthens social bonds and group survival. But when you witness a gorilla gently cradling a fallen friend or a dog resting its head on a crying child, it's hard not to feel that this connection goes beyond mere biology. It touches something universal, something that reminds us we are not alone in the capacity to care. If emotion seems so deeply ingrained in animals, it's because they are ancient. Long before humans appeared, nature had already written the neural and chemical codes that make feelings possible. Fear, for example, is one of the most fundamental. A gazelle that reacts instantly to the sight of a predator is more likely to survive and pass on its genes. Similarly, joy and play serve purposes beyond pleasure. They help young animals build coordination, practice social skills, and strengthen bonds that can mean the difference between life and death. Love, in its biological sense, isn't just romance. It's the attachment between a mother and her offspring, or between long-term mates who rely on each other for survival. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, is found across mammals, and even in some birds, influencing nurturing behavior and trust. Grief, too, may have deep evolutionary roots. When an animal mourns a lost companion, it may be an expression of the same attachment system that ensures group cohesion. Those who form strong social ties often have greater protection, better access to resources, and higher chances of raising young successfully. From reptiles to mammals to birds, evolution has preserved these emotional systems because they work. They shape how animals respond to the world, make decisions, and build relationships. And while culture and language have added layers of complexity to human feelings, the core mechanisms, the chemical messengers, the neural circuits, are shared across countless species. Understanding this evolutionary heritage not only brings us closer to animals, it also challenges the idea that human emotions are unique. Instead, they're part of a continuum, a shared inheritance stretching back hundreds of millions of years, binding us to the living world in ways we're only beginning to fully appreciate. If you've ever returned home after a long day and been greeted by a wagging tail or a purring ball of fur, you've experienced a moment of emotional connection that feels undeniably real. These are not random behaviors. They are expressions of recognition, joy, and attachment. A dog that waits by the door at the sound of your car isn't simply responding to a learned cue. It's anticipating your presence, much as a child does when they hear a parent's voice. Cats that need your lap, parrots that mimic your laughter, or horses that nuzzle your shoulder are all displaying behaviors rooted in deep social bonds. Even working animals like guide dogs or rescue horses often form close emotional partnerships with their human handlers. They learn to read our moods, adjusting their behavior when we are stressed, sad, or calm. Studies show that dogs can detect human emotions through subtle facial expressions and changes in scent, and they respond in ways that suggest empathy. It's not just pets. Farmers often speak of individual cows with distinct personalities. Wildlife researchers describe wild dolphins who bring gifts of fish to familiar divers, or elephants that recognize and greet humans they have not seen in years. These parallels between human and animal emotional life highlight something profound. The threads that weave us together are not limited to biology. They are lived, felt, and expressed in everyday interactions. The smiles we see in dogs, the soft chatter of a happy parrot, or the quiet companionship of a horse on a trail are all part of a shared emotional language. And perhaps what makes these connections so powerful is the realization that we are not so different, that the joy, comfort, and companionship we give to them is in many ways the same that they give to us. For decades, the debate over animal emotions was framed as a clash between heart and science. Many scientists demanded strict evidence before acknowledging feelings in non-human species, while everyday observers, pet owners, farmers, field researchers, insisted the proof was right before their eyes. Now, modern science is catching up to intuition. Neuroimaging studies show that mammals, birds, and even some invertebrates have brain structures and chemical processes remarkably similar to ours in the areas governing emotion. Dopamine floods a rat's brain when it plays, just as it does in a child. Oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, is released in both dogs and humans during affectionate interactions. Behavioral studies reveal grief-like behaviors in elephants, ravens, and sea lions. Joy is seen in dolphins surfing waves for fun, in crows sliding down snowy roofs, and in gorillas playing gentle games with their young. These are not isolated anomalies. They are consistent patterns across species. And yet, science also reminds us to be cautious. While similarities are undeniable, animals may experience emotions differently from us, filtered through their own evolutionary history, sensory worlds, and survival needs. What's clear is that acknowledging their capacity for emotional life reshapes the way we see them. It pushes us to reconsider how we treat them in farms, labs, entertainment, and in the wild. Because if they can love, grieve, and feel joy, even in ways we don't fully understand, then empathy becomes not just an option, but an ethical responsibility. In the end, science and compassion don't have to stand apart. They can walk side by side, helping us see animals not just as resources, but as fellow travelers on the long, emotional journey of life. Across species, there is a silent bridge, a shared language that doesn't rely on words. It's in the wag of a tail when you walk through the door, in the gentle rumble of an elephant greeting an old friend, in the quiet, watchful presence of a dog when you're sad, or the soft coo of a pigeon to its mate. We may never fully decode every nuance of their feelings. But do we really need a perfect translation to recognize love, grief, joy? The truth is, animals don't need to speak our language for us to hear them. Their emotions are written in their eyes, in their movements, in the bonds they form, and the rituals they keep. In a world where humans often draw hard lines between us and them, animal emotions remind us of the connections that cross those boundaries. They remind us that joy is not a human monopoly, and neither is sorrow. Every laugh-like pant of a playing dog, every mournful cry of a whale for her calf, is a thread in the vast, emotional fabric of life on Earth. We are woven into the same cloth. To honor that truth, we must not only marvel at these emotions, but protect the lives that carry them. Because when we care for animals with empathy, we safeguard something larger, our shared capacity to feel, to connect, and to belong in a living, breathing world where love is never ours alone. In the end, this journey through animal emotions leaves us with a truth both simple and profound. Feelings are not a human invention. They are part of the ancient blueprint of life, carried in the minds and hearts of creatures across the planet. From the smallest bird singing for its mate to the great whales who mourn their dead, the spectrum of emotion is a bridge we all share. These moments, fleeting or lifelong, remind us that joy, grief, love, and even hope are not bound by species. The real question is not whether animals feel as we do, but whether we are willing to feel for them in return. In every choice we make, what we protect, how we live, how we treat the lives we touch, we either strengthen or weaken that shared emotional thread. And perhaps, in honoring the hearts of other creatures, we keep our own humanity alive. Because to recognize their joy is to deepen our own. To see their grief is to widen our compassion. And to protect their love is to protect the very soul of the world we all call home.